So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Keir Starmer's branded Brexit, the Conservatives' biggest failure. And it's very hard to disagree with Starmer on this, but I would say the biggest success of the Tory party is convincing people trickle-down economics worked. So that wouldn't really work, would it? That would be a failure, that would be a success. So we'll stick with Starmer's rationale on this one, which is Starmer's branded Brexit, the Conservatives' biggest failure, accusing the party of betraying a public that voted for better public services and stronger communities. They didn't vote for stronger communities, they voted for more English communities. The bits from the article are in italics, my bits are in not italics. He's not wrong. The 350 million on the bus is a great example of that. Promising to bring back the old 12-mile limit for fishing is another example. In his fiercest criticism of the government's handling of EU withdrawal, the Labour leader said it epitomised how ministers lurch from crisis to crisis on issues, which Brexit has really exposed that because of all the different things that EU kind of dealt with. Again, hard to disagree with that. We have had endless problems, mainly in DEFRA with farming and trade problems. The Department for Transport would be given another given the large lines at Dover and the other ports. I mean, you're seeing multiple departments here with issues. Insisting Labour would make Brexit work, would not seek to reverse it. Sir Keir said only he could deliver the Leave promises that would take control of their lives. Take control how exactly? That's the issue, and I don't know what he's talking about here, because the kind of Brexit promises that were made are impossible to achieve. Starmer saying, I didn't hear that Brexit was about slashing workers' rights. I didn't hear people wanting to lower standards on food, animal welfare, or the environment. I didn't hear them wanting to end redistribution. Starmer said, people like Gove said we could have higher standards than the EU. The funny thing is, we already did in most cases because the EU set the minimum standards, something Brexiteers don't understand. Starmer saying, so I want to speak directly to the people who left Labour on this issue. Whether you voted Leave or Remain, you've been let down. Solid argument, but to argue he can fix Brexit is hard unless he can convince people on immigration, which was a key reason why most people voted for Brexit. I think that's why a lot of people voted for Brexit, is to take back control of our borders. And with Liz Truss, the Tories are changing the meaning of Brexit before your eyes, which the problem is Brexit could mean anything you, the voter, wanted it to mean. Johnson did this as well. I don't remember, as Starmer pointed out, that we would have lower working rights or free ports or huge tax cuts for the rich. I don't remember the Tories talking about that or the Leave campaign talking about that in 2016. Sir Keir did not announce any change in his limited push to ease the Brexit trading blockages and make it easier for creative artists and professionals to work in the EU despite pressures to do so. So with the artist stuff and professionals, they're typically talking about services, which isn't covered in the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. Labour did say they wanted equivalency deals with the EU on agri-foods. Financial services, they've said two different things, on which is something I've covered before. Lammy said they would seek equivalencies for services. Starmer said he wanted some weird best for British system, so it wouldn't even help people who are professional artists and other things to work in the EU. At least Labour haven't really discussed it. Starmer said, if you voted to take control of your life and for the next generation to have control of theirs, then I say to you, that is what I would deliver. He does not explain how they would do that. Sad times. There's one thing to say, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. It's like, all right, what are you going to do in terms of training, diet? Are you taking climbing lessons, for example? You're like, nope, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. It's just stupid. On the Conservatives, he said they don't plan for the future, they don't believe it's their job, and so we lurch from crisis to crisis, always reacting, always behind the curve, a sticking plaster, never a cure. I would have mentioned COVID in this bit. And if you want the totemic symbol of this, the biggest failure to grasp the nettle, then look no further than Brexit. I mean, this phrasing is weird. The attack came as Starmer announced Labour would set up a new publicly owned green energy company as a rival to foreign investors in the vital industry. I did see some people on kind of the left saying that there were issues with this, read the small print, etc. But I didn't read the small print, so genuinely that would be a great idea. About this setting up a company to manage kind of building more kind of renewable energy sources. It would protect us from higher global prices, especially if that energy which was produced wasn't sold on the global kind of exchange. He also wants to push for more homes to be insulated. I would love it if they created programs for people to be able to get solar panels, even allow counties to help them buy wind or solar farms, sell that energy to the national grid and use the money to invest in local projects. That would be so great. There is a village in England that did build some, I think there's only one energy pylon, one windmill effectively, and they sell that to the national grid and they use that money to invest in their kind of local village. And boy, they must be raking it in right now. Great British Energy would harness the power of Britain's sun, which we don't have a lot of, wind, which we have too much of, and waves to cut energy bills and deliver independence, he told the conference. The firm would be modelled on companies in many European, Asian, and American countries, so the rest of the world, which work in partnership with the private sector to increase capacity. Again, depending on how it worked, it could be so great, but if you give too much of control over it to the private sector, again, that's not great. But the move was criticised as too little too late by Labour pressure group Green New Deal Rising, while calling it a step in the right direction. To achieve a transformative Green New Deal, we need full public ownership of our energy sector, said spokeswoman Hannah Martin. But she added, alongside pledges to achieve clean power by 2030, and stake in renewable investment, it's good to see Labour starting to understand that we can tackle climate change at the same time as fixing our broken economy. And I would give probably most of the credit to the energy stuff to a certain Mr. Miliband, Ed Miliband. They make some really valid points here, this group. The issue is that you don't want to scare voters, but we are running out of time on climate change. This is a triple win, potentially, making energy bills cheaper, being less reliant on authoritarian regimes, and helping the UK do our bit to stop climate change. This is a good step. I would rather they go further and they would take the contracts out of a lot of these private companies, which are time-based, so it wouldn't cost the taxpayer anything to kind of just, get rid of these contracts, because once they expire, if you don't renew it, it's free at that point. There's no cost there apart from buying the equipment to do most of the stuff yourself. But I'd want to see the government kind of, obviously oil drilling is not something you want to do long term, but if we take that into public hands, you can use that oil in the UK instead of selling it at the international price, which is way more expensive. There's also so many other things that kind of the Labour Party could do with this regard, but a step in the right direction. He's actually talking about Brexit. The problem is, you can set out a broad kind of goal, but you need mini steps to achieve those big goals, and if you don't, you're going to fail. And the Labour Party, as always, kind of to my frustration, has listed some great things here, but not really how they're going to achieve it, and that's frustrating. But at least Starmer's talking about Brexit, and that's kind of a win, given how bad his tenure has been in some ways as leader of the Labour Party, if you're a ardent Remainer. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.